What is up, YouTube, and welcome back to Jiu Jitsu. In today's video, I'm going to be telling you about some of the injuries that I have gotten training and some of the more common injuries that I've seen happen in Jiu Jitsu, as well as what you can do to limit your risk of getting injuries like those. Ultimately, Jiu Jitsu is a combat sport, so bumps, bruises, scrapes, scratches, those are all somewhat inevitable. Serious injuries are much rarer, but they do happen, and you can do things, you can train in certain ways to help limit the risk of being injured. Before I go any further, hit the like button, subscribe to my channel if you're not subscribed already, and hit the bell notification to be notified the minute a new video drops. Also, consider following me on Instagram if you want to see more details about my personal life and about my competitions, training, the gym, whatever. Follow me on Instagram at @lil_jitsu. See you guys there. Alright, so I have been training somewhere between 6 and 7 years, and I've been training fairly consistently at least 3 times a week, and every time that I train I do get hard rounds in. So when I list my injuries, take those with a grain of salt. I'm training at a certain intensity, and these aren't things that have to happen. Some of these injuries were my own mistakes and could have been avoided if I had been smarter. So these are the injuries that I've gotten. Okay, I've broken my finger, I have strained my LCL in my knee, I have popped a rib, I have sprained my elbow. I got thrown pretty hard and landed on it, so that left me out for a little bit. I sprained my ankle, and I've also gotten stitches on my eyebrow right here. You guys probably seen that picture on some of my thumbnails. And then I have also, most recently, cracked my toe. Now I'm going to tell you what the injuries that I've seen happen more than once are, what the common injuries that I've noticed have been. And keep in mind, this isn't a list of all the injuries that I've seen. It's just a list of the injuries that I've seen happen more than once in my significant amount of time training. So this isn't like a set in stone, you're going to get these things hurt if you do jiu-jitsu, but these injuries can happen just like any sport you do. The most common body parts that I've seen get injured are knees, ribs, also fingers. Okay, fingers are pretty common since, we're using grips on the gi so much. Broken fingers can happen. And then the last couple here are necks, getting smashed, inverting, things like that, and then shoulders. Those are the most common body parts that I've seen get injured. Now, the important part, right? How to avoid these injuries that can happen doing jiu-jitsu. Ultimately, these tips for avoiding injury are gonna sound somewhat like common sense, but it's hard to keep that common sense in the back of your mind while you're doing rounds, while you're in the heat of training. A lot of times, avoiding injury really just comes down to managing the level of intensity that you're bringing to each round. As far as intensity goes, you have to manage not only your own intensity, but you have to kind of keep in mind what your partner's intensity is as well. If you go into each match or each round, like your goal is to win, your goal is to not get tapped, your goal is to beat the other person, then your intensity is just going to slowly amp up until you guys are fighting an all-out war, which that's where a lot of injuries can happen as well. Pride, intensity, you got to manage those if you're going to avoid injuries. So to limit the risk of injury when it comes to intensity, you should be, especially when you're newer, you should be choosing who you roll with wisely. You should pick people that you know are going to roll at the intensity that you set and that you prefer. Now, I'm not saying never do hard rounds, never go full intensity, because you need to do that at some point. It's just don't do that every single round, because that's going to amplify your risk of injury. In line with the intensity of your training is the level of speed, explosiveness, strength that's being used in each round. These attributes are useful and they can help you win rounds, but they are going to make it more likely that you or your partner get hurt. Injuries that happen as a result of speed, strength, explosiveness, athleticness are generally due to an overall lack of self-control, body awareness, and usually happens when someone is newer. The only tip that I can give in regards to this is slow it down. Another thing to keep in mind here is when I roll with different people, I approach my training differently. If I'm rolling with the big, heavy, strong white belt, I'm not going to be working on my closed guard submissions and my inversions, because I'm just going to get smashed. I'm going to get crushed and stacked, and it's not going to be comfortable. I'm not going to be putting myself in positions where my partner's weight or my opponent's weight can be used so much against me, especially when there's a big disparity. On the other hand, if I'm rolling with the athletic college wrestler, I'm going to look for positions that I can slow things down, right? Closed guard, mount, back. And I'm not going to move quickly. I'm going to get my positions, control the positions, and let my opponent tire themselves out. That way I'm not matching speed for speed and trying to scramble my way out of everything. Finger injuries are a little bit different because we're grabbing in jiu-jitsu, we're grabbing all the time. We're using our hands. So, you'll see a lot of the upper belts have their fingers taped and their hands will look more like claws than actual hands. And that's because it's such a grip heavy sport. For me, my strategy to limit my fingers getting broken, and I have broken my finger, I said that earlier, right? My strategy is if I grab a grip and I see my opponent, you can tell when your opponent's like springing up to break the grip. If I see them loading up to break it, I'm just gonna let go the instant that they go to break it. And that kind of catches them off guard and they relax, and as soon as they relax, I re-grip. And that basically saves my grips the impact of being broken like that every time. If I know someone's stronger, if I know someone's gonna break it and they're gonna put all their effort into it, it's not worth it. I'm just gonna let go, re-grab, get back to the game that I'm playing. We also want to talk about, the knees, the shoulders, the elbows, the neck. Really, any joint injuries are a result of fighting out of submissions or not tapping quick enough. It's not worth it to try and fight my way out of it unless I'm in the finals of worlds or something. If it's a choke that's being applied correctly, I'm more willing to push myself to the edge because I know that nothing's going to break. Joint injuries can take a long time to heal, and I'd rather be in the gym training the whole week. If it's finals of worlds, I don't care. Let it break. The last thing that I'm going to say here is a lot of jiu-jitsu gyms don't practice standing rounds that often. The main reason for that is because gravity is a huge cause of injury. I've seen a lot of injuries happen when someone doesn't fall correctly after being taken down, or takedowns are being applied incorrectly in some way. Looking at my list of injuries, I think 3 of them have been from standing. My recommendation would be, if you want to be a good wrestler, start all your rounds standing with 50% intensity, and that means, your partner matching that intensity level. And then as soon as one of you lands a takedown or one of you pulls guard and ends up on the ground, at that point the roll is 100%. Going 100% from standing, unless you're practicing for a competition, it just doesn't make sense from a health and safety perspective. I appreciate you guys watching this video. Hopefully you all found it beneficial in some way. And my goal in making this video is that these tips and tricks and concepts help you avoid injury and keep you on the mats training. Don't forget, like, subscribe, hit the bell notification. You know the drill. Stay consistent. Go train.